All right, y'all, man. Sorry, it's been a little bit long. We're gonna keep this series going, though. I'm gonna just jump right into it. Today, we're gonna talk about the Carolina Panthers and just kind of talk about their roster and what they kind of bring to the table. Um, traded up to get the first round pick last year. Um, not too horrible of a team last year, but had a lot of shuffling with the quarterbacks. Now they have Bryce Young. We'll see how that era kind of reigns in for Bryce Young. But man, let's talk about these Panthers, man. So like I stated, Bryce Young's the quarterback now. Very talented young guy. He could, at that point in time in the season, have developed. Andy Dalton's backing him up, but he could have developed, and he has Miles Sanders. So Miles and Bryce kind of have that tie with, as far as I don't know if Bryce Young plays the same style as Jalen, but I think maybe that'd be helpful for him as a young guy. But then you have also on the receiving core, you have a lot of different guys: Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall Jr., Jonathan Mingo, Laviska Shenault, Shi Smith. A loaded room. Some of those guys played a big role. You brought on Thielen, Chark, and Mingo as a rookie. Terrace Marshall Jr. was pretty productive for them. So you also bring in Hayden Hurst, the tight ends behind them. They kind of contributed a lot for the Panthers as well last year. So a lot of additions offensively. I think Miles Sanders is probably their most dynamic weapon. We'll see what Marshall Jr. and Mingo develop into. Thielen's kind of aging. DJ Chark is kind of just a solid veteran. Giovanni Ritchie, they kind of have like as a fullback. So you have some guys kind of add a little bit. So you add in some new guys: Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen. So I mean they have a solid offense from the look of it. Solid weapons. Nothing too much that scares you. No, nothing really, honestly, elite. Miles Sanders might be the closest thing you might have as elite to as far as those playmakers are concerned. It'd be interesting to see what kind of dynamic Bryce Young can add to that point to their team at that season when we do play them. So I was looking at their offensive line earlier, and I think Bradley Bozeman, their center, he got hurt. So he was about the only one, but the other guys played a lot. Taylor Moton's probably their best offensive lineman. Iquanu is a first-round pick. Christian Shin was like a third round. Austin Corbett was on that, y'all remember that Super Bowl Rams team. He was a pretty good offensive lineman there, a solid veteran. So Panthers got a pretty good offensive line. It's not really too weak. You just don't really have like too many elite pieces. So I think with as far as the Panthers offensive line is concerned, they won't be too hard for Micah and company. I think you can kind of take advantage of maybe Iquanu's still a little young. I don't know exactly how well he played last year. But I think you can definitely add with Iquanu. If you have Taylor Moton continue to play pretty well. And then let me adjust something, y'all. But Taylor Moton played pretty well. And with Iquanu, those tackles could be a pretty good bookend. Have a okay, solid interior, but nothing too crazy. Not kind of reminds me of like the Tyler Biadasz of the world. It's a cat. Kind of coming in. I actually just kind of unplugged the computer here, so what I had in front of me as far as the depth chart and all that kind of went away. So if it pulls up, cool. If not, man, I've been kind of looking at the Panthers. Like I said, I've been gone a little bit, but in the meantime, I've been kind of doing my due diligence, looking at the Panthers. But I think if I'm trying to go it off memory, defensively, well, we'll finish talking about the offense a little bit, and just my overall opinion. They have a solid offensive line. It's not really a weak one. I think it's middle of the pack. You have some pieces that, if they can kind of get a little bit better for them, they can be more of an asset to the team, to Bryce Young, definitely. But he's coming behind a not too bad of a situation. No true number one receiver, no true big-time threat. Miles Sanders would be definitely a good aid for him, though. Solid veteran. Still has some playmaking ability to him. So he's not too bad when it comes to too out the loop when it comes to playmakers. Oh, this still booting up better. All right, so it's coming up a little quicker than I thought. I was gonna go to defense, I was gonna go off the dome, but it's all good. We'll have the computer hopefully boot up here to kind of help me out a little bit. But yeah, offensively, I think our defense can match up. You have corners that can match up well with their receivers. You have our defensive line can kind of challenge their offensive line a little bit. Nothing too elite on their offensive line, and I think we can contain Miles Sanders with our linebackers. Damone Clark, looking for him to make a huge step. So I think we're pretty comfortable when it comes to facing them. It just depends on what type of dynamic Bryce Young will kind of bring. But you played these type of quarterbacks before. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if Bryce Young's. I think he can do a little bit more from the pocket than I think Fields and Hurts can do. But we'll see. I think it could be a challenge. I'm not gonna really knock their offense too much, but I think it'll be interesting, to face and see. But we'll go to their defense. Let's see. Just turn the music on. All right. So let's go to their defense. Yeah, I think it starts with Brian Burns. Those linebackers, I think they give good pressure. They had good sacks. A lot of sacks from them. I think Brian Burns had 10 plus. Frankie Louvu, Marquise Haynes can give you a little bit. And then from the defensive line, you had some guys kind of contribute. 1 sack here, 2, 3, 4 sacks here and there. So Shy Tuttle, Derek Brown. I know Derek Brown kind of pops out a little bit more to me, but I mean he's I don't think he's in the too much of like the. I think you have a better kind of guy like in Osa or we'll see what Mozzie turns into, but like I said, it starts with Brian Burns, J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson. I think the cornerbacks are also pretty good. The secondary, they added Von Bell. Xavier Woods is pretty solid. Veteran. Y'all remember Xavier Woods. C.J. Henderson was another guy they added. Jeremy Chin kind of plays in and out that safety and a cornerback role, kind of from what the depth chart showing. So, I mean, I think they could maybe add a little bit more bodies. I don't know too much about their a little bit back. Eric Rose, another name that kind of pops out. A couple forced fumbles, sacks. It's not. Brian Burns about the most elite. Brian Burns, I'm sorry, and J.C. Horn. they're about the most elite guys you have back there. Dante Jackson was the guy that got hurt. Was putting up pretty good production though, as far as interceptions concerned. But you know, that could only be one part of the stat. But Carolina's defense, I think it could take maybe a couple steps. You have a lot of young guys on there. Brian Burns. Yeah, he's coming into, I guess, his kind of the veteran part of his career. But overall, I think offensively, Lamb and Horn, that's going to be a good matchup. Dante Jackson versus Cooks, C.J. Henderson, and Michael Gallup. Might be able to get Lamb in there against Henderson, get a little mismatch for you. Our tight ends kind of, I think, can take advantage of some things from their safeties. Linebacker-wise, Luvu and maybe able to give you some coverage. And if he's a pretty good linebacker, then my fault. I just ain't really heard of him too much either. But his stats look great. Shaq Thompson gives you a lot of tackles. And Luvu as well to tackles, but like sacks, interceptions, pass deflections. So I think the Panthers defense is on the rise, on the way up, but I think offensively we can match up with them. So I mean, we'll see, man. So that's pretty much the Panthers. I'm looking to be able to beat them. The Cowboys be able to take pretty good control of time of possession and defensively give that young offense enough problems. Not too many elite things coming out of the offense. A lot of solid pieces on the offense, but it just all kind of depends on where Bryce Young's at that point of the year, middle of the year. Defensively, look out for those linebackers. Look out for J.C. Horn. Those guys, defense I think is a little bit more on a faster track than their offense, but offense not too far behind with theirs. But I think overall, our roster is just hands down just a little bit better. At this point, Dak over Bryce, Pollard over Sanders. I like our receivers over theirs. Again, we'll see what our young tight ends can do, but Hayden Hurst he's a solid veteran. I like our offensive line over theirs. They have Tyler Moton. We have Zach Martin. So the rest of our guys, I like our pass rush over theirs. I like our secondary over theirs. So overall, I think just a better team on both sides of the ball. But should be a pretty. I think the Panthers on their way up. So that's pretty much all I got on the Panthers, y'all. Next team we'll get into is trying to go off memory. Maybe Washington. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, y'all can kind of comment what y'all think. Appreciate some of the folks that have been coming out. Still, again, very new to this, very young to this. But right now, I think this is a pretty good starting point to kind of just review, jump in, and draft has happened. We've had additions to this team. So, just kind of looking at our opposition right now. Like, it's early. It's real early to do this. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to just get an early look, research. And then once the season comes up, closer, might get back into this when you kind of making predictions and kind of be familiar with some of these teams. And then when we kind of play these teams, be a little bit more familiar, just a little more knowledgeable and just seeing kind of what what teams have, what they're composed of, and where you kind of stack. So far, I mean, we've gone through the Giants, Jets, Cardinals, Patriots, Niners, Chargers, Rams, Eagles, Giants, Panthers, and all those teams have things that are great, things that are not so great. Some teams don't really have a lot of things that are great, maybe some more than others, but overall, I think to this point, if I'm breaking down, if we're looking at the rosters, if we're not just kind of gleaming at the stars on teams, right? I know it's easy to kind of get caught up in like the Giants. You look at Andrew Thomas, but when you look into it a little bit more in depth, you're like, well, our offensive line looks a little bit better, despite. So, people say things like, Giants, for example, again, teams like the Giants, or next team's gonna be the Commanders, actually. So teams like the Giants and Commanders are closing gaps, but when you kind of do a little research and look at their rosters, you realize that you have a more than decent chance against a lot of these teams, especially with this team this year. Defensively, we're stacked up better against a lot of these teams. Just have a way better. Michael's a big part of it. Trayvon, the safeties, their play of not being deficient. Linebackers aren't deficient. There's certain teams that kind of have the same kind of guys that you have that you complain about, but just in doing this, you realize that you got it pretty good, Cowboys. So we'll get into the Commanders. We have Commanders, Seahawks. Went over the Eagles, so I'm not going to do them. We got Bills, Dolphins, Lions. So we got a couple more games here. About five more games to get into. So we'll get into those games, and then we'll just start dropping like other content as the season goes on. Hopefully there's a way by the time the season starts, we can stream from just reaction and watching the game together. That'd be kind of cool. But overall, I'll check y'all later.